We're talking Wonder Woman 1984, a.k.a. WW84,
AKA.
which, by the way, is just a retelling of our 84th World War. Mega stinky!
Against Wacky Wombats?
Yeah. I was like, whoa. Wanky! Anyway, we're talking Wonder Woman 1984, the sequel to the, how many years ago? 2017, was it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
2017 Wonder Woman. Same director. And, of course, Gal Gadot back in the role of Wonder Woman. If you've seen it came out Christmas Day. Yeah, so we're not going to divulge any plot summary here because you've either seen it or you haven't.
Yeah.
We're going to get straight to the meat of it. Because I don't know where you're at. So let's just get our impressions out here at first. First, before we even say anything about the movie, as far as the DCEU, for the most part, we've actually been on board that bus. You know what I'm saying?
Short bus.
Yeah, very short bus, but we've been on it. We liked Man of Steel. We liked the director's cut of BVS. We enjoyed what Suicide Squad was, compromised though it was. And we liked fucking the original Wonder Woman. And we enjoyed the theatrical Justice League for what it was, you know?
And Aquaman was a movie.
I didn't particularly love Aquaman. You were a little bit more kind to it, but I didn't absolutely hate it. I was just like, that was a thing I saw. And we like Shazam. So we're just getting that out there because I know a lot of people just straight up hate DC, either legitimately or just because they're writing MCU. But
just because they're wacky wombats.
Exactly. So let's just get that out there. And I feel I have to get that out there because I want to say that 1984 kind of blows nards.
Oh, I knew that was coming
for a large amount of its running time here and there. That's not to say it's a complete loss, but it's not great. Yeah, I'd put it right on the level with like Aquaman in terms of how I feel about it. But anyway, that's me. We'll get into that. What about you? Where are you at?
I feel that I wouldn't say it blows nards, but I kind of get what you're saying.
I feel like lots of testes were blown.
I wish my testes was blown.
By Gal?
I feel like it's way better in Aquaman. Mm-hmm. Like way better in Aquaman. But yeah, it's definitely like on my lower tier of movies.
Yeah, conceptually and thematically, it's pretty sound. It starts off by telling you exactly where the story or how the story is going to go thematically. And that's a good thing because in all honesty, for me, that's what kind of kept me going. You know, it lets you know right off the bat that this is going to be a story about the importance of earning what you want versus just getting what you want. And again, had that theme not been, and it does follow throughout the whole movie. It is strong in its thematic. It does keep to the theme. But had that not been there up front and telling me this is where we're going, I would have kind of been like, God damn, homie, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Is what I would have been reacting like. There's a lot of flaws in this movie. I think the one, let's start with something that you just can't avoid but see. And that's, there's some effects in this movie that are just like, really, this is what you gave us? Like, your first movie in the DCU had way better effects than this. You know what I'm saying? How do you step down so dramatically in your effects? There's some green screen in this is downright ridiculous. I was like, wow, what is that? What is that? Cheetah looks terrible. They try to mask it by, having kind of like this gray toned scenario, but she looks pretty fucking awful. And the effects faux pas don't end there. Like, obviously effects are used to communicate a lot of the superpowers, though those superpowers are done with wire work and stuff like that. Here it's like you feel the heavy hand of the effects and the heavy hand of the wire work a lot of the times. A lot of the ways that Wonder Woman this moves are way too fluid. So you're like, or at least I was like, damn, man, that looked just downright unnatural. You know what I'm saying? And I get that these, of course, are supposed to be heroes that do amazing things. But For the most part, the action in the first Wonder Woman movie looked pretty badass. She looked like someone, or the way she moved, the way the action was shot, the way the effects in conjunction with the stunt work worked, looked like a superhero doing super things. Here's like, how is she running like that? Is she like running through like no friction water? It was weird, man. It was some weird looking effects, like especially when they do those like like profile shots of her running. It didn't even look like she was touching the ground. They clearly had her hanging up over something. Just moving.
There is a couple. I'll fall first before I agree with that. I kind of disagree. I don't think a lot of the effects are great, but some of them are pretty good. I will give mad kudos to there being some good digital doubles in this. I said some because there's one in particular that was like, "Whoa!" And that's when she's trying to save the kids.
All those kids were straight up dummies, guys.
Super fake looking.
Those kids were straight stiff dummies.
Yeah.
Like, how do you have that much time to work on the film and then rework on it if you want to because of the delays?
And you keep them
and
kids.
You keep those fucking dummies, man.
Yeah, them shit kids was pretty bad. But I do think some of the effects were cool. But yeah, there is some weird moments.
I'm probably with you on the same, boat here. I'm not saying every effect is bad. There's some really cool effects in here, but those that suck, there's like what? And again, there's worse effects. We can agree on many a movie.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a severe step down from the last movie.
There's weird moments that would make me, which is why I get why you're saying that. Mm-hmm. There is a weird moments that stand out so much that it would probably make me go, man, them effects. But I wasn't because I actually kind of liked a lot of them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's some weird ones, and yes, that's one of them. When she's running super fast, like in the street, man, not even touching the ground.
Yeah, it's like it looks too fluid. It looks too unnatural.
I think
it doesn't look super heroically awesome. It just looks too unnatural.
I think the worst effect was Cheetah, especially her paws. And you said that they try to mask it with like this gray kind of setting, and they did. Unfortunately, that kind of worked against it. Because she just kind of blended into the setting.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of hard to follow what was going on. Not because it was like super shitty effect. It was just like kind of weird. Like she blended into the setting, so it didn't look particularly cool. I do think that there were some close-ups that looked alright. I think maybe prosthetics at times. Like enhanced ones.
It seems like there may have been a prosthetic range of work done on her. And they just... CGI'd over it.
Like in the wide and action shots is pretty much pure CG.
Yeah.
At times it looks alright, but most times it's like, whoa,
there's a scene where she's like talking, and it's just a face pasted on a body. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, like say Jim Carrey as that fucking Ghost of Christmas Past.
I think,
but it's like you could see the mouth, area where it's her mouth, and then there's just CGI, and
I think she's probably the worst effect in the movie, in my opinion.
So there's some wonk ass effects in this that honestly shouldn't have been there at that level, given what we've seen before. So that was kind of a bummer to see. On the subject of the action, this is a very action light movie, so that's gonna piss off a lot of people that want an action movie, which is something that's kind of an important component of a superhero movie. Now, I like the director's cut of Batman vs. Superman, which is, in comparison, in context of its running time,
like 3 seconds of action.
It's an action-light movie, but the build-up is fucking awesome. The character work is cool as shit. It's for me as a fan of Batman at DC Comics, I absolutely loved all that stuff. Here, the build-up is very tongue-in-cheek. Not in a particular way that I enjoyed. Didn't hate, but I wasn't like too keen on everything. There was some stuff that I liked, but it just wasn't interesting enough character-wise for me to give a shit. I'm not gonna go all the way, but let's for the sake of argument, I almost felt like this movie was a lot of the middle section of Aquaman, where I was like, but in Aquaman, I wanted to kill myself when him and Mera were out doing.
Oh yeah,
the little globe trotting shit. Here was kind of like, come on, guy, get to the interesting part. because I know it's there, and they do get there. But we'll talk about what happens when they get there. So the action is light. Getting back to what I was talking about, the action is light in this, but it is there mostly in the bookends, the beginning and the end. And I gotta say, the intro scene was cool as a way to get you. And I'm not talking the prologue scene, which takes place in Themyscira, but I'm talking when we first see Gal come in and do some shit. It's kind of cool, but that's when I first noticed, like, oh, she's moving like way too fluidly in this, but it still was cool. And then of course we get action in the end, mainly with Cheetah, because Maxwell Lord, the villain, is kind of like a wiener. He's just a fucking guy, really. So the culmination is not an action sequence, which is fine if it's executed well, but I didn't think that was executed well. But we'll talk about that. As far as the action, is it there? Yeah. Was I all for it all the time? No. There's this part where Maxwell Lord is in the Middle East and she's trying to catch up to him, and there was just some incredulous shit in there that was like, come on, guy, what is this fucking thing? It just didn't look convincing, man. It didn't look, not the whole sequence, but some of it was like, all right, you're stretching it, guys. You know what I'm saying? And that's bad when in a superhero movie you're stretching my fucking limits of believing you. You might have misstepped a little bit, but all in all, my review of the action in this movie is it's fine, but boy howdy, there's a lot of stuff that I just couldn't get over. How about you? What was your take on the action?
I feel that there is no action, basically. I'm kind of torn because I disagree in your overly negative sounding of it. I actually found it fine, but I also really agree on the fact that it's not very good.
Yeah.
Especially, in my opinion, the opening kind of sequence with her taking down these robbers. That I think was mad fake looking, and that is where you get a lot of that early kind of weird floaty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think after that, I kind of got used to the way she moved, and I was fine with the rest of it. But yeah, it was kind of a weird way to open it, in my opinion. Especially because she's basically just like this, almost like Spider-Man character at this point in the world, which I found kind of weird. So I saw someone on a group describe this movie as kind of a freaking old school Superman type thing, and I can kind of see that. There's a lot of cheese in this, and I think I kind of like the cheese. Not all the cheese. Some of it stinks, but I feel that does kind of save some of the more ridiculous shit.
Well, it's very appropriate that you brought up Spider-Man, because tonally speaking, action and just across the board, this movie feels like a early 2000s Spider-Man movie, tonally speaking. The action, the superhero stuff, the humor, it's all in that vein, The thing is that there was no precedent for that dramatic a change. So I kind of felt like slobber-knockered by that. Like, why did we go here again, guys? Like, was there really a need to go to this? If it had started that way, I don't know if I would appreciate it more. It depends on how I would have reacted to if the first Wonder Woman was tonally that way. But I don't hate the results of that, but I don't love them. That's for damn sure.
I think I agree with that. I think that this is mad. I think if this came out like before any of the cool DC movies, I would have been like, yeah, that was pretty rad. But we already had so much better shit that it's just kind of like, this is a movie, isn't it?
So one wonders if we liked that DCEU stuff, which a lot of people didn't, how they'll react to this. Maybe they'll react adversely to it. I don't know. Maybe they'll like it. I don't know. But we are well, you know where we're coming from. So let's move on to the characters in the story. Diana's exactly where I think she should be. I think Gal is meant to be Wonder Woman. She's just good at being Wonder Woman. You know what I'm saying? She still has that air. She just happens to be stuck in a movie that kind of sucks a little. or a lot at times, but she's still Wonder Woman, and I wanted her to be as cool as she was in BVS or Wonder Woman or Justice League. It's just, stuff kind of licked, but she's great. I like Gal. I think this is a role she was born to play. And let's face it, it's probably one of the few roles where her accent will work in her favor.
Well, seeing that they basically made all the other people talk like her, of her people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. Pedro, right?
Yeah.
I forget his name always. Looks hideous in this, but he's intended to kind of like be trying to create a version of himself that's ideal. I think this is where the movie dropped the ball the hardest with Maxwell Lord and his pursuit of the Dreamstone. It was cool to see the Dreamstone. It was not cool to see it wasted like this. And I say this because it's not that Maxwell Lord is a shitty villain. He is. It's the fact that he could be that, and the Dreamstone could be the way to make him legitimately a scary villain. I appreciate the fact that they still gave him human qualities. Same with Cheetah, by the way. They gave them a human quality where it was like, it was just that they were being corrupted by their desire, their need to fulfill some sort of something in themselves, to fill some sort of hole in themselves. That's cool. And it goes very hand in hand with, kind of like that culture of greed and prosperity that was really prominent in the 80s. I mean, we got movies based off of that culture back then. But I think because they focused way too much on that, they completely robbed the scariness out of the idea of the Dreamstone. They touch on it a lot, surprisingly, but it's literally that, like a really light touch, Like, I just never felt the impact of the world going into utter chaos based on witches. Wishes and desires. It just felt kind of silly and contrived by that point. So I think it's kind of like weird that they focus so much, quote unquote, on the character stuff, but still didn't do much with the potential of the Dreamstone and what it does, or what it could do, alter reality, create absolute chaos, etc. I don't know where that got lost, but somewhere along the way I was like, all right, guys, we get what he's going for. Can we focus on the disastrous portion of this? And then we do get that disastrous portion. It's just not impactful enough. And it's succinctly, my case is made when everything is just at the end of the movie. You're like, oh, the world's back to normal again. So I guess that was meaningless. You just don't feel the impact. I didn't feel the impact. So to me, that was like the biggest thing in the movie that was a kind of a dud. Like, wow, that kind of went nowhere, did it? Also, it was super silly, the way they carried it. But we'll get to that. Anyway, what's your take on that angle?
I kind of liked them. I'm not even going to lie. I like that it's not that they didn't go the whole suddenly he's a freaking man god or whatever, which they could have easily done. But I feel like that's overplayed. I'm kind of tired of homies getting mad power and just being like mad Hulks all of a sudden. Kind of licks. And I like that he's corny throughout, like a shitty guy, like a lame dude. But I do agree in that I think maybe they spend too much time showing him do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there is a point where you're like, all right, guy, I kind of get it. Like, you don't have to keep showing me you doing all this stuff for people.
They could have approached it a variety of ways, too. Like, either one, he loses complete control of what he's doing, and then he's still someone that you could kind of empathize with. You still see the flaws in him, so you don't lose any of that character stuff that you like, and I like too. But you don't go overboard with it because now it's out of his hands. Or, I don't know, maybe the entity that they've established in the movie that could have been a thing.
I think that's kind of the biggest waste, in my opinion. Again, it would have been maybe too much like the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I get why maybe they didn't do that. But at the same time, they mention it
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, oh, the gods thing could have played into this a bit. So that's kind of unfortunate. I think that's the biggest problem in my opinion. I even didn't mind the ending. I mean, yeah, it was kind of corn, like with all the, when everything's chaotic, it's a little cheesy or whatever. But I was kind of used to the cheese, so I was kind of fine with it. Not, I wasn't blown away by it or anything, but I was like, all right. But the biggest problem is, that they spend, I think, too much time building up what he's doing, but you got it like the first time.
Yeah.
And then you get, he takes a lot of the time of the movie. And given that he takes so much time, there's very little progression in what he's doing. He's just kind of doing the same thing over and over. I think that that's the problem. Is I actually like the character. I think he's pretty interesting and different than the villains we usually get. But the fact that there's so little progression in this character is kind of unfortunate. If they had focused some of that time on something else, it wouldn't have been a big problem. But since you spend so much time with him, you're kind of like, all right, guy, do something else.
This could have literally been a situation where, in fact, I'll point out somebody that it's not a good movie, but that just goes to show you how much of a not good movie this is. I'm not going to say bad, but, not good. Like Superman Returns had a part where,
I kind of get that.
He was overwhelmed by the amount of chaos that was going on. And to fill in that massive amount of time, they had him do stuff in the meantime. Like, they literally had a way for Wonder Woman to do tons of stuff.
Yeah.
During the time that Maxwell Lord was slowly drawing the world into this chaos. But she almost did nothing during that time.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guy.
I think that's kind of that along with the fact that there's so little progression in his plot. Is the problem is that it's kind of a long movie. It's not for superhero movie standards, but the fact that there's so little happening in the time is what's kind of makes it feel long.
Yeah.
Like you said, she doesn't really do much. She just kind of hangs out.
And now there's going to be some people that are like, oh, these guys just don't appreciate the character work or they don't have attention span or patience. Trust me, guy. We got it. It's just it's not very interesting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Like, again, I don't want to be super negative because I actually enjoyed the stuff that's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's a flaw when there's so little progression going on, when there could be some good progression going on.
Exactly.
I feel that maybe, it wouldn't fix everything, but if they were cut out some scenes, there's some scenes in this that didn't need to be in there. If they cut that shit out, it would have probably not been a big problem. But the fact that it is kind of stretched very thin and they don't do anything particularly interesting to fill that void is kind of a problem, especially when it comes to Max Lord, which, again, I really like. It's just there's no progression in this plot until the end.
Now, you mentioned that there's some scenes that should have been cut out of this, or could have been, I should say. And I think our next character that we'll talk about here, Steve Trevor. Of course, how do you get Steve Trevor back? The moment I saw the Dreamstone, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's a great way to bring him back. So I was relieved, but also like, I didn't expect to wait the 7 hours of Max's Lord's life. But so here comes the ultimate conundrum for me. Steve Trevor, unfortunately, ends up being a character that almost feels like you could cut him out for the most part. The negative to that is, or the further negative to that is that he's integral to Wonder Woman's character. So they sewed in a character that needs to be there, but at the same time, he doesn't need to be there. Story-wise, he needs to be there, but then you're like, half of his stuff we could do without.
Yeah, again, that's another, like, we already mentioned that she doesn't really do much in this movie. That extends to him because she's with him the entire movie, basically. They could have easily given them more interesting stuff to do.
Yeah. Even when in the first Wonder Woman, we had a fish out of water element with Wonder Woman in the real world, or in the modern world, as it were, back then. Here they kind of reversed that, but it was literally like just a brief mini sequence. Like, for all the Maxwell we were getting, we could have had a prolonged sequence of that. And it would have been funny, you know, to see him try to... It would have been useless, but it would have been like, all right, guy, well, we're getting our 60th Maxwell Lord sequence. You know, I'll go with that other sequence instead. But no, yeah, you know, just there's a lot of stuff where he's just kind of there.
Yeah, it's strange. It's very weird because you could easily give him stuff to do.
Yeah.
So that's odd. I do think that they should have gone totally weird with it, and because she basically wishes this homie back, and he like inhabits some homie's body. I wish they would have just gone like a fat, disgusting blob. That's just a freaking thought. This homie should have been in a hideous, ugly, unlikable being to test.
There's also the weird thing that the Dreamstone can literally alter reality. So why would his spirit need to be in another body?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. There's literally...
It could just be him.
Like, I think in the beginning it's okay. It's fine because you do see stuff being kind of changed for the wish to happen.
Yeah.
But literally at the end, there's just freaking shit appearing. You know, like there's just nukes appearing out of nowhere and freaking shit just literally just appearing instead of something being twisted into
gradually,
someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it could have easily been that. Now you could say that maybe that's just because what's-his-face's power was off the charts at this point because he had literally touched everyone on Earth and looked into their eyes and had 50-minute sequences talking to them, which, by the way, I like. But there is way too many of them.
You know what I don't like? His plan ultimately is to, because the Dreamstone takes as it gives, so he's basically a walking dead man, you know, if he doesn't recoup.
Yeah, he's gotta suck.
He's gotta suck. So his plan is literally to satellite himself the world over on TV, and somehow we're just expected to believe that this is the equivalent of being touched.
Now look, I agree. I agree. It's super stupid. But I do got to say, this is mad comic booky. It is one of those things. It is one of those things, and it's very appropriate that Jeff Johns was a writer in this. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where you could easily say this would work in a comic, but it doesn't work in a movie.
Doesn't.
My theory is that they brought Jeff Johns in, and he just doesn't know how to do movies. It seems to be proven in this movie because shit doesn't make any sense in the movie.
That's just and they try to explain it too, and it's like, nah, homie, that's not gelling, boy. Speaking of shit not gelling, there's something in the development of Wonder Woman's character that we'll get to. But before we get there, the last main character that we got to talk about is, of course, Kristen Wiig as Cheetah. Now, we like Kristen Wiig. You know, we were first introduced to her in SNL. She was one of the funniest things on there when she was on there during her tenure. And I saw movies with Kristen Wiig before. As did a lot of people. Like Bridesmaids, she was in that. That was very popular and stuff like that. But once Ghostbusters hit, well, we've seen what it's done to the women's careers. People seem to be unwilling to forgive them being in anything. So I suspect that might be something that they'll get their claws into. Pun not intended, but there it is. I just feel it in my bones, and I don't feel that any of like the rage of dudes will be justified, other than to say that this movie blows for the most part. The Cheetah character is Kristen Wiig being Kristen Wiig. Is that good? I mean, it just depends on how, if you like Kristen Wiig or not. You know, it's her weird kind of awkward, talk a mile a minute, low confidence character that she does a lot of the times. Not all the times, but she does do that a lot. And this is one of those movies where she does that. And then we kind of have the she's all that turn, only with, a superpowered stone thing, where she's this Cheetah character all of a sudden, basically. I think she did okay. I think she was fine. Not really anything special. They needed someone to fight with Wonder Woman. So that's kind of what her role is. I feel like there needed to be more to her character motivations for her to. Now, it's understood in the movie that the Dreamstone takes, and that one of the things that it took from her is the last thing she had, which was basically her personality, her being. So her judgment is not all there, but I still feel like there needed to be more than people didn't treat me right.
Yeah.
For her to be so evil.
So I agree, because, and not even because of the evilness that comes, because that is kind of explained. I just feel that the people treat me so bad and now I'm evil thing is mad played out.
The last time this happened was Iron Man 3. Well, the last notable time this happened was Iron Man 3.
Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Well, I haven't seen Amazing Spider-Man 2. But anyway.
It fixed his gap too.
The point is, motherfucking Iron Man 3 had that with Killian, and it was one of the shittiest parts of a shitty movie. Here it's not to that level.
No.
Killian was fucking awful.
I think that
he breathed fire, man. But anyway,
I think that
it's still not great.
I think as like a presence, she's okay. She's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I do like. Unfortunately, we get none of it. But I do like when she's kind of like fully evil. She actually kind of has a little bit of a presence there when the first fight in the White House.
Yeah.
I think that was cool. But she's that way for so little of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, because it was kind of neat to see her play something different at this point. Because honestly, I was really disappointed that it was just her playing herself again. And I didn't hate her. I think she was okay. I think she did well for what it was. But again, this character is kind of so corny and played out at this point. It's like, I don't want to see the I was treated bad and now I'm evil thing again. Especially when it's so like shallow. Yeah, it's like, really, guy?
Yeah, and that's ultimately the real problem. I could have been okay with that character again. It was just given substance, or at least, I don't know, hella action sequences to justify it being there as muscle. But you really don't get any of that, which is unfortunate. So it is what it is. But anyway, there is, as aforementioned, a development in Superwoman, in, well, might as well, huh? In Wonder Woman's abilities here. Now, this happens in the comics. She can approximate, at times actually do, depending on what comic you read. She can fly. So we get something like that here. And it's got to be one of the worst moments in this movie for me, man. Just one of the least credulous developments of all time. All of a sudden she's soaring through the fucking wind, and they try to patch over how awkwardly quick this happens by having her wistfully remember what Trevor said about flight. And you're like, well, I was like, what the fuck am I watching? It just felt so fake and looked fake for the most part. Mega green screen. There's parts where it looks cool, and look, I'll grant Gal Gadot this. She knows how to posture like a superhero in a comic book does. She does it really well. But there was moments in that awkward flight sequence where you're like, damn, homie, even she couldn't hold this for long. Little legs wavering. It's just so fucking awkward, man. And it fucking lasted so long, too. Like, dude, this could have been a couple of scenes and that's it.
There's several scenes in this movie that go on too long. And that is one of them. I agree. It doesn't make any sense. And the kind of...
You know how it would have made sense? If she would have gotten the fucking armor that had wings and used the wings for flight.
Okay, that's another thing. So the armor's used like 1 second in the movie. And she's like already flying to the place where she's going to beat up Maxwell horny dude. What's his name? Lord? He's going to beat up him, basically. So she's already mid-flight across the entire stratosphere. No, it's not that far. But literally in the next scene, she has the armor. So I guess she stopped by her freaking home and put it on. Now,
normally, they show her stopping.
Normally I wouldn't... It doesn't. But normally I wouldn't critique...
No, it does.
No, it doesn't.
She goes like this and the armor's there. And then the next scene, she's fucking in the armor.
Either way...
Which begs the question, why didn't she just go get it first?
Well, because she was standing and doing nothing with Trevor for 50 hours. So anyway, it doesn't make it. Normally, I wouldn't critique that, but she she uses this armor for a second and it literally has no use. So she could have just freaking...
It does have the use that's shown in when she's talking about the armor, which, by the way, is very Deus Ex Machina, but whatever. It's useless Deus Ex Machina because that's literally all the armor's good for when she uses it. Now, granted, that is what it's told to you in the story, that it was mainly used as a defense mechanism to keep people attracted to one person. But, man, in the flashback, it's shown, like, hundreds of people attacking one person. And Cheetah just shreds the shit out of that armor in like a second.
So ultimately, it becomes like a what was this thing even in this movie?
Yeah, really. Which is a shame because she looks really cool in it. So I don't know. You could have justified the utter silliness of her somehow soaring. Like I don't even mind the lassoing, lightning and cloud shit. That kind of look cool but.
Well, yeah.
For it to be prolonged that long, based on her doing this and then this and then using her hands to fucking, what the fuck?
I do like that, especially early on, they do kind of, it's not just mad flight. Mm-hmm. It's basically Buzz Lightyear falling with style. But the fact that...
Her light just fucking fell.
Pretty good set guy. The fact that she's literally falling with style for over an hour and a half, that's where it becomes ridiculous to me.
Yeah, when you spent 10 years on a flight, you may have overshot.
Yeah. And they do things like you mentioned the lightning, and there's a part where she like lassos those and then does it to go forward. That's cool, but at the same time, you've been in the air for literally 5 years. How's this working, guy?
Yeah, it's mad incredulous, man. I was like, what the living fuck am I watching at that point? Now, there's another moment where they just kind of shoehorn something in too, that should have been this incredulous, but is somehow not as incredulous as the flight thing. And I don't know how it's not as incredulous because it's pretty crazy. And it's her, basically they shoehorned in the Invisijet. Oh. And it's her, which if you read the Wonder Woman comics, especially the old ones, she has an invisible jet, which is fucking stupid. But anyway, most people don't just kind of ignore that, but they didn't hear, and it's, her... thankfully, it's not like she has an Invisijet.
Yeah.
And they go... Thankfully, it's not that, but they steal a fucking fully fueled... fucking jet from the Smithsonian. Yeah. I don't know why it's fully fueled.
For some reason, they have like a freaking... I mean, they might.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but whatever. It sounds kind of silly, but whatever. That would have been an action sequence. Let's fuel this. Avoid guards. Have to put them away, But nope. They just get into a fucking jet, and it's fuel, and Steve Trevor has got to get out there, but he's on radar. So she's like, oh, by the way, for the last 50 years, I've been trying to hone these mad skills.
Which I'll never use.
Which I'll never use again. I've only done it once with a coffee cup, and it vanished. That was funny, but I was like, that's funny line, but does this justify doing this? No! So, of course, we all know that Zeus built her out of clay and blah, 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 hid Themyscira and all that shit. So basically, they use that as a means for this to happen. Like, yo, my pops did this.
I feel that...
don't know how the hell I honed the skill of an actual god. But here we go. Oh, it works. It was weird.
Look, I'm going to say that in hearing Patty Jenkins talk about Wonder Woman, it's very clear to me that she's a fan of the property, but she's also a fan of the corny shit in the property, as in that show. I don't know if the invisible jet was a thing in the show, but that's the thing that everybody knows about Wonder Woman and either likes or hates. I feel that she put this in here and was like, it's just because I like it. And it's just kind of a scene that happens.
It is, man. It's a thing that happens. And thank God I immediately forgot. And maybe that was just me trying to just salvage something, but I was like, I'm just going to ignore that.
That was weird.
Then we get flight later on. And at that point, I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I can't. This is super unbelievable. Not to say that a lot of stuff was credible up to that point, but that was just... The flight did it for me. Like, I was like, this movie just dropped massively in points right here. Not that it had many, but anyway. That was a big one. But anyway, anything that was... either good or bad that you want to point out?
Yes, I have a big complaint,
Okay.
and that is that Linda Carter's face is atrocious.
Jesus Christ.
She's in this at the end in a post-credit sequence, which sucks. But it doesn't suck as much as her face. That chick has not been taking care of her face.
Look, man, Linda Carter's like 1,000 years old, and that's fine. But that cameo was one of the hammiest, most shoehorned in shits I have ever seen. And there was that MCU post-credit sequence where you know, they revealed that Steve Rogers was in Wakanda. I thought that was a useless scene, you know? But I was wrong. This was a useless scene, you know? That fucking Wakanda shit was just like, oh, we're used to, the crowd is used to people seeing a post-credit sequence. What do we do? Let's make this useless factoid that clearly everybody knows or has inferred a post-credit sequence.
This was definitely...
This sequence was worse.
This was, again, another moment of clearly she just wanted her to be in this movie. And there was no real thought put into how until last minute.
It's terrible.
This is another one of the many moments where you're like, come on, guy.
It also raises tons of questions.
I get that you like these things, but you got to think about it before you put it in there.
I feel like it raises too many questions also. Like, wait a minute, so this fucking character has been, what was her name, Asteria? Has been around all this fucking time in the world of men? Has done jack shit? Did jack shit there's entire thing? It's stupid, and it raises questions that shouldn't be there. You don't know what the fuck I'm talking about because you haven't seen the movie. Linda Carter is a character that used the golden armor that you see in all the promotions originally. So she's just been around, apparently survived her ordeal, and that's what they used as an excuse to have shoehorn in this horrible mid-credit sequence with that, by the way, damn near breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Like, it was so bad.
Also, I got another complaint.
All right.
Again, I didn't hate this movie. I actually kind of liked it.
Okay.
But there's a lot of complaints, and this is one of them. Now, I do think that it rectifies itself later, but early on, and I love this dude, but I hated the soundtrack in the first half. I thought it was way too freaking busy and lame, and there's this kind of orchestral version of the Wonder Woman theme that was just super lame. Now, it does get better as the movie goes along, and the action scenes, it actually works, and there's some stuff that works. But I hated it in the first quarter of the movie.
The scenes of whimsy music.
Yes,
suck.
that's what was so bad. It was
it's
man. So freaking busy.
And you know what I hate? And this just goes to show you something about our reactions to the other DCU movies. There's going to be a lot of people that really dig this because I remember a lot of people bitching about the other movies, going, they're not like the schlock fests from the older days, you know? A lot of people really like that hammy shit. I personally don't like over hammy shit, and there's so much over hammy shit in this movie, and then to top it off with whimsical hammy music at times, come on, guy! I feel like if I was Hans Zimmer, I would have been like, I can't do this, guy.
Yeah, but, I was actually when I saw the name pop up, I was like, oh, cool. Is it going to be at least a good soundtrack? And then, oh, Hans, what did you do? This is bad.
Hans.
But there is actually some good stuff in there. Especially there's again a remake of the Wonder Woman theme later on that's actually really cool. Mm-hmm. But there's some shit in here, like Hans must have been drunk or some shit. This shit. They didn't get Hans. They got Franz.
No, I think they got Hans Mole Man.
It's like, damn, homie.
Speaking of Mole Man, this has nothing to do with Mole Man, by the way. Should have. It would have probably been cooler. But the final confrontation between Wonder Woman and Maxwell Lord, it follows the conversation with Cheetah. So I guess that's your ultimate hero versus villain scene. It sucks. It's mad shit. I hated it, every second of it. It was super shitty. Her somehow being heard for the fucking fuck.
Now look. I agree with you 100%, but I also got a counter because I actually like the lasso use in that showing him what he's done or whatever.
Yeah.
That's cool. But I 1,000,000,000% agree with you on the fact that it makes zero sense that he's standing in like this light beam and suddenly everybody's seeing the light and they can hear her perfectly.
They rely on the quote-unquote weird pseudoscience of, particles being beamed through satellites. Fine, granted, that's a thing that happens. But by pseudoscience, I mean that they expect you to believe that that's the equivalent of a physical touch.
A mad beam, too.
Yeah. So they rely on that ridiculousness to somehow expect you to believe that Wonder Woman is projecting...
Yes. Her lasso power.
Not only the lasso of truth's influence, but somehow her speech?
Yeah.
How the fuck is she projecting her speech?
Despite the fact that the whole time Max is yelling at her and shit.
Yeah,
and there's massive amounts of sound, so how to hear her?
There's a cacophony. There's a little wind blowing, which, by the way, wind...
What was that? Like, he's commanding wind at a certain point.
Yeah, it's weird. The element... I mean, every time he grants a wish, there was like this gust of wind, which made me think eventually the entity is going to make an appearance. No, just wind. But anyway, he's in a whirlwind, virtual whirlwind. He's screaming to be heard, but then there's Wonder Woman in a fucking corner going... And somehow he's responding to her. And when they cut to him, it's super loud. And when they cut to her, it's like mad silent.
Yeah.
And then we get the lasso thing, which is cool, I grant you. But then somehow projects the influence of the fucking lasso and her speech over the world. And by the way, somehow that makes everybody in the world retract their wish.
That was stupid. It didn't need to be done either, because once he retracted his wish, basically the stone was done.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to have all that shit. Now, I'm guessing they threw that in there to be like, oh, look, the world's not that shitty. But sorry, the world sucks ass. Oh, yeah. And this year has proven it.
Matt sucks.
So, come on, guy. I've seen this movie called the Feel-Good Movie of the Year. I disagree. I think this movie shows us how much we suck and shows us that we're lazy at coming up for reasons for a movie to end. Because what the flip, guy? Now,
it's gotta be one of the worst confrontations I've seen in a superhero movie.
I disagree because I like the
Liking
Max.
One element, which I like too, is not justified though.
I like the Max stuff. I like that. But yes, the rest of it is stupid. The freaking beaming shit was dumb. The fact that the screens turn her color is stupid. They could have just had the Max thing happen.
Yeah.
And ended that way. I felt like maybe that was the original plan, but they're like, yo, this feels mad anticlimactic. Let's add in all this stupid shit. So that was a thing that happened.
Yeah. So.
Also, I gotta say, I don't want to be mean.
Uh-huh.
Max has a hideous kid, guy.
But he's a normal looking ass kid.
Maybe it's just because I hate kids.
You hate kid games, bad guy.
Your hate kid games bad.
No, my hate kid games is justified. A kid grabbing his fucking balls and dick while he pees himself and screams like an asshole. That's a reason to hate a kid. You're like, oh, that kid exists, I'm gonna hate him.
Nah, I like kids.
That's how you roll.
You know who I liked? I liked the kid that played Diana. She was cute and cool.
That sounds mad creepy, but you know what I'm saying? But
you know what I'm getting at. Why are you twisting my kid shit? I didn't like that kid. He was mad ugly.
By the way, if you're wondering what the fuck I'm talking about, there's a whole video about this mad, annoying kid that pissed himself. I'm not just seeing random kids pissing themselves.
That does happen in this movie, though.
Oh, yeah. Might as well. It would have been more entertaining. But look, man. This is a very problematic movie with a lot of fucking issues. Unless we got something else to say, let's get to our final thoughts. And, a score on a scale 1 to 10. Go.
I feel that this is the second weakest movie in the universe. I like a lot of it. I actually like Max. I like some of the stuff. But there's a lot of shit in here that shouldn't be in here. And it feels overly long despite it not really being long. Mad weird tone, but soundtrack, and it's just kind of a movie that happened. So I'm gonna give it. I can't hate on it because I like a lot of it. So I'm gonna give it like a 4.5, and that's kind of a positive one because I did like it. But there's too much problems for me to give it higher than that.
This movie sucks. Fucking nuts. I gotta say I hate it more than Aquaman. After just revising it in my head here, or revisiting it in my head.
Nah, Aquaman's worse.
Aquaman just had more sequences that were entertaining. And it wasn't a tonal fucking mess. Despite how lame it is, Aquaman is. It at least had a tone that it dedicated itself to. It at least had stuff happening that wasn't just stuff happening over and over and over and over again. You know, there's just so much in this movie that's like a missed opportunity. I think that's really my biggest issue, as I said before. You know, the Dreamstone could have been used in a much more effective way. I feel like inserting so much fucking hamminess, whether it's because of Patty Jenkins' nostalgia or because they're like, oh god, we gotta be like Marvel or whatever the fuck, was a huge mistake. You can have humor and all that stuff. You know, there was plenty of humor in the first Wonder Woman movie, and it didn't feel so fake and weird. It was a cool fucking movie. This one just feels weird and completely fake, guy. To me, you know, I was like, what is this movie? Gal is Wonder Woman. This is just a shitty Wonder Woman movie. And, you know, that's not enough for me. Despite me liking some elements, some things in it, it's just not enough for me to justify giving it more than a 3. And really, I think I should give it less than that, but I'm just going to say a 3. Because there are some things that I did like. I like the intro in Themyscira, and I liked that they kept it a theme at least. There was some cool little things here and there, but it just felt like ass for the most part.
I feel I get it. I'll give it. I'll allow that 3. I'm gonna stick with the 4, but I went down to 4 by the way.
Yeah. Good sticking to it.
I gotta say one final point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of monkey paws, and I feel like this was a squandered opportunity to make a mad, a high budget monkey paw film. So that's why I took off the 0.5, and now it's just a 4.
Yeah, I would have.
I gotta say, it's not something you'll hate. You know what I mean? Like, I don't hate it, but it is not a good movie.
It's not a movie.
Like, I don't actively hate it like Iron Man 3.
Like, I'm all for revisiting a movie and giving it another chance, and I will do that with this one. I do that with a lot of movies, unless they're just complete ass. I feel like this one came very close to me going, I'm never going to give this another chance. But I am going to give it another chance. I just don't think it's going to improve as much. Now, the first Wonder Woman movie, my first go-round, I wasn't all in love with it. But my second go-round, I was like, damn, I love this movie. It's great. And I've stuck to that ever since. But this one, holy cow, man. You got to do a lot of legwork to get out of some of the weird shit you walked into here, WW84. It's a movie, that's for sure, guys. I don't know, man. I think Patty Jenkins needs to go, to be honest with you. I think maybe that I'm beginning to think maybe that first one was like
Snyder
that
thing?
studio interference plus the Snyder being a big thing. I think that's kind of what made the movie.
Zack Snyder wrote the first one.
Yeah, because if this shows anything, it's that whoop.
Yeah, like I feel that
She's a good director. It's just this movie. Wow.
I feel that this one was kind of like her kind of nerdy fan unleashed, you know?
Not good.
And from what I hear, Jeff Johns is kind of a pushover. I'm not hating. I actually like his writing, but it feels like he was just kind of like, yeah, I'll do that for you. And then ended up being a movie that happened.
Yeah. This movie is the cinematic equivalent of my taint.
I won't go that far, dude. Your taint
It's not a good thing to look at.
It's atrocious.
It's a pretty solid taint, I gotta
terrible
say.
taint.
You ever seen my taint?
Dude, it's a bad taint.
You can't judge my taint if you haven't seen my taint.
I freaking went to GoProMyTaint.org and you were in the front page, guy.
Nah, homie. It's not how I roll. But anyway.
Why were you there then?
I wasn't.
You're featured.
Why were you at GoProMyTaint.com?
There's some good taints out there, and yours won.
I went on there. But anyway, the point is, this movie's mad ass. I'll give it a 3. Stinky House, which saddens me greatly. I think... I don't know. Anyway, this is the thing we saw. Let us know what you think about Wonder Woman 84. Did you like it? If you did, let us know why. We're interested to know that. Gonna go fix our set lights because Stinky House. So that's a thing. And we're out.